Hey guys, today we're going to make a video for you kind of showing us doing hand analysis. This is what Dangerfish and I do every single week for an hour or two as we go through the hands from the previous week and we discuss them in detail. This is very similar to what we're going to be doing in our group classes, except we're going to be discussing the students' hands with that individual student, and while everybody else watches and listens and hopefully learns from what we're doing. We're going to do two hands today, and I hope you guys enjoy this. All right, so at this point, what are you thinking about his range and how your hand does versus his range?
Yeah, this player's pretty tight. I think he plays something like 2016 or so. I don't think I can 3-bet him here with this hand. I don't do well if he 4-bets me. So I think calling's the best play pre-flop, but gets a little bit more interesting on the turn and river.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Managed to get the pot 4 away. All right, so he bets into 4 players. What are your thoughts at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I got a call, but I don't think he's bluffing. Let's put it that way. I don't think he has a lot of air in his range. In fact, I think he would check fold like most of his overcards here with 2 players left to act, especially with their stack sizes. So I'm calling with jacks here on the flop, but I'm not really all that excited about my hand.
If the small blind or big blind check raises, what do you feel about your hand at that point?
Yeah, well, if it got back around to
they're shorties though,
gun and he folds, and I mean obviously got a call, but
yeah,
that'd be fine. Actually, be a good result.
Yeah, because those guys are so short that it's pretty much an auto call at that point.
But his bluffing frequency is like next to 0, I think, in this spot.
What if he has like ace king with a big spade? He's probably not doing that.
That's possible. That's probably one of the few sort of semi-bluffing hands that he might have, and I'm not even 100% sure if he bets those.
Okay.
But yeah, that's possible.
All right, he checks. Now, what is your thought here?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't all that excited about my hand on the flop, and I think here's kind of an interesting spot because I can check here and try and take a showdown. I don't think I am necessarily good often enough to go that route, so I think that there is a better play here. I think I can bet turn, shove, river, and get him to fold basically all of his non-flush range, non-set range. And the main reason why is there's just really no bluffs I can have here. I mean, I know this player from playing with him. He's a pretty good hand reader. And if he check calls his turn and then checks and I jam the river, I mean, there's just really not a single hand here that he beats with something like ace-ace or king-king, queen-queen. So I do think that it's a spot where a lot of guys will try and take a showdown, and myself included, when especially if I'm playing a lot of tables and kind of in autopilot mode. But I think that the clear play here, the best play against this type of player, is to try and get him to fold a better hand, because I think Jack-Jack is deceptively weak in this situation.
So you would agree that betting the turn without betting the river would be a pretty big mistake?
Yeah, I think he's going to call the turn a lot, especially if he has like something like king-king, king of spades. Same with ace-ace, ace of spades. He might bet those hands as well on the turn, but I think that he would. This particular player probably try and preserve his equity by making sure he's not bet folding those hands. So I wouldn't be surprised at all for him to check call with a better hand than Jack-Jack and then check folded on the river.
So, I mean, you feel like a majority of his range is going to be queens or better here at this point.
Yeah. I'm just not that really all that excited about my hand as far as showing it down.
Yeah, I agree, and this is probably one of the toughest transitions for small stakes players to make, is understanding when they need to take a value hand and turn it into a bluff. And I think this is a really good example. I always think of my opponents. I always try to imagine what level they're on. I think and we're talking about reg opponents here, there's level 1 in which he just doesn't understand absolute versus relative hand value, and so when he check calls the the turn, he then check calls the river because he says to himself, well, he could be bluffing here. I have aces, I have kings, whatever I call. Then you have level 2 in which they become a pretty decent hand reader, and they understand that a player like you, and you have to understand something that Dangerfish and I do very consciously, is we try to maintain a solid image, and so we're allowed to make moves like this. And so when we have that level 2 player, they understand that that we're just not value betting anything worse there.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, and I'll tell you, to be honest with you, he's playing his hand well to not pay this off. The fact that I have 2 jacks here is not really relevant because he's absolutely getting crushed by my range. So I think if he has like 2 aces, he's played his hand really well. It just happens to be that the board ran out in such a way that gave me an opportunity to turn jacks into a bluff. But I don't think he's doing well at all if he goes call here with something like 2 red aces or kings.
I agree absolutely. In his spot, I would also be folding against most opponents because then you have to, in order to call, you have to be on the next level in which you understand that your opponent is good enough and bluffy enough to be turning a made hand into a bluff here with enough frequency to call. But in my opinion, even when you think that your opponent is at that level, and I'm talking about from the underguns perspective, even then I don't think it's a call because it's all about frequencies. Is your opponent bluffing with enough frequency here? And it's really hard for your opponent to have that pocket tens, pocket jacks, pocket queens, and then be able to turn them into a bluff. So I agree with everything Devin said.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit fortunate that the board helped me obviously a great deal in this situation, but I think that the point is when you're playing a hand, oftentimes there comes a point in the hand which you have to recognize that your hand is no good, and then your options are no longer call, they're now fold or bluff. And I think a lot of people hit that inflection point and instinctively go to call, especially if they have some semblance of showdown value, but when in reality you really don't. So you need to consider the other 2 options, which are, in this case, I feel like if I'm giving up, I'm not going to show down the best hand very often. So then it becomes a decision of whether I want to bluff. And I think that bluffing in this spot is definitely the best play. So he calls a turn, which I'm not surprised at all. And I think now it's like almost impossible for my hand to be good. But I think he can fold, he can check fold this river. So, and obviously stacks are perfect for it.
I agree 100%. Nicely played.